Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Woohoo Group Points podcast. We kind of love talking about credit cards, points, but travel in general. And I have Sam here from Autopilot who has this really cool app that can really help you save points, cash on the flights that you're booking. But I'll kind of let him talk about that when we get to it. But first, Sam, welcome. How I like to introduce everyone is just tell me like a cool trip you recently went on, either with points or just cash.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you very much for having me, Matthew. It's great to be here. Excited to talk a little bit more about points, travel, autopilot, everything in between. One of the trips that I took recently, which I'm very proud of as a optimizer, a points and miles person, I was between leases. I'm here based in New York. I was between leases a few months ago, and I decided to take a trip around the world. So that started with a redemption on Japan Airlines first class on the A350-1000 using 80,000 American Airlines miles. That was probably the best redemption I will ever get at over 25 cents per point for those
Pretty
who
solid.
are interested in that metric. And then bounced around, did Hong Kong, Singapore, flew Q Suites over to Abu Dhabi. And then from Abu Dhabi, used some more American miles, 110,000 to be exact, to fly the apartments, Etihad apartments from Abu Dhabi to Toronto, and then eventually, down back to New York. But yeah, it was a little around the world that I pieced together, 100% using points and miles. It was the trip of a lifetime, and I'm already looking for how I can do that again.
Yeah. And for, many viewers like us, we love saving money, not spending our hard-earned cash for awesome trips, right? Rather to do that with points. But with booking trips and travel, people have been doing this for ages, but as new things come up, what are some like common problems you saw when you were booking your own trips even earlier?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the things that the airline industry, the hotel industry, the travel industry more broadly has spent a lot of time, money, energy optimizing is the booking process, right? I mean, it is where they get the money from you. And so if they can figure out, hey, how do we optimize the booking process to squeeze every additional penny out of you as the consumer, that's how we make our money.
Mhm.
And where I think a lot of problems pop up in the travel space is actually after you've already booked your flight. So you have the confirmation code, you have the trip kind of set up. Now what? And I think there, of course, historically been a lot of problems when things go wrong, from delays and cancellations, from, in my case, price drops, from upgrading and maximizing the value of getting the upgrades and getting in that front seat without paying the top dollar for it. And so all that to say that I saw a ton of opportunity, call it, in this post-booking space. And I started Autopilot with that thesis, which is how do we help travelers actually better optimize the post-booking experience? Again, everything from after you've already booked your flight to the moment it takes off. And as we think about where this is expanding, it's not just with flights, it's also with hotels. So from the moment you book the trip to the moment that you're actually back home, where you started. And so we see a lot of opportunity here in kind of this post-booking travel optimization. And that's really what we're building at Autopilot. The US based airlines have had this thing called a change fee, which is kind of in the name. You can understand that if you change a flight, you need to pay a fee. Same thing with a cancellation fee, right? You cancel a flight, you need to pay a fee. Now, over COVID, in the competitive US market, the US based airlines by and large did away with change fees and have since announced that those are permanent changes that are here to stay. Now, this provides an opportunity where travelers can essentially have unlimited customization with the flights, their travel experience, also with hotels if you book flexible rates, when you don't have to pay that change fee to make any changes. And so this new era of unparalleled flexibility has really opened a window for us to essentially provide travelers with tools that allow them to essentially better optimize their travel. And so we started back at this point 2.5 years ago with this product called Lowest Fare Guarantee, which is essentially a repricing service or a price matching service when the prices drop after you've already booked your travel. But where this is going is much bigger than that, right? So when we have your reservation and we know that you are a Delta flyer, maybe you're a Delta Diamond, and you love paying for a first class upgrade every once in a while on a flight that's over 6 hours, we have the ability to track those upgrades. And so it starts with getting people money back on the flights, the hotels that they've already booked. But this extends much further in helping people better customize, call it that post-booking experience,
Mhm.
given this kind of unparalleled, or sorry, this new era that we're in, where customers are able to change without a fee.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I mean, there's flying's been around for a long time, but there's still more innovations coming out. Like I just recently read this thing about like bidding for upgrades and things like
Sure.
that. So
Yep.
lots of things still coming out. But for someone new to, Autopilot, maybe they haven't even seen your website yet. Kind of what's like the basic thing you do, why people should sign up, and then what's a cool customer story that you have to kind of prove that point.
Sure. Yeah. So for people who have flights, whether on the cash side or the points and miles side, if you have a reservation coming up and it is, we'll say, more than a day out, you should add your flights into Autopilot. We will automatically track the price of that flight. And if the price drops below what you paid at any point between the time it's imported to Autopilot and departure, we will file a claim with the airline to get you a refund on your behalf without you having to do anything. And so, all that to say, most customers will sign up. They'll give us a few reservations to add. Sometimes they'll link a Gmail so we can automatically track those reservations as they're added. And then from there, the customer essentially will just receive an email from us saying, hey, we found a lower fare. We worked with the airline to claim this on your behalf. Here are the details. Here's the refund number. If it's a credit, here's the credit number. And we make that very seamless for our customers so that they essentially have found hidden money that they otherwise would not have gotten. Now, like talking about kind of a customer story, I think what's
Hmm.
important to highlight more so than like, one big savings event, because those do happen, is rather the consistency of how frequently these price changes happen. And like, what I can say is people are often surprised at how frequently airlines change prices. And so we've been doing this for call it 2.5 years at this point, and this has become a science, right? It is, we know the exact time of day that the airlines drop prices. Without going too far into it, you are predominantly, if you're in the US, you are likely either asleep or at work. And so kind of claiming the fare is the lower fare is rather impractical. But all that to say that, this is a product that, again, we've had in market for 2.5 years, and our customers just keep coming back, keep referring friends, and we're super excited about being able to save them money on their travel. One of the cornerstones of our billing model is we just take a percentage of the amount that we save you. And so if we save you nothing, you don't pay us anything, even though we've tracked the flight price for you. At
Hmm.
the same time, if we don't save you anything, you know that you got the best deal on the plane from the time that you book to the time that you take off. And so, there's an age-old saying. I remember being on a flight when I was little, and my dad was kind of telling me that the person sitting next to us likely did not pay the same price as we did. And now with Autopilot, it takes the guessing work out of when to book, right? Because if you book, the price keeps going down, Autopilot keeps claiming that lower fare for you. You know, you're looking around. If you book at calendar open, I'm looking around knowing with 100% certainty that I got the best deal out of anyone else on the flight, anybody sitting next to me in the cabin. Of course, if you're in economy, maybe somebody in first class did, have a better deal, quote unquote. But
Yeah, yeah.
all that to say that within the cabin of service I'm in, you know that you are getting the best deal from the time that you booked to the time that you take off. And if Autopilot doesn't save you any money, that still means that you got the best deal because, the price only went up from the time that you booked to the time you took off.
Yeah, and I mean that really changes the behavior because most people I know, my friends still do this, right? It's, oh, I'm gonna wait, or I'm gonna check every day or every week for this fly. I mean, I remember doing this a lot with the point stuff too. Is like I know it can go lower. I don't know when it'll go lower, so I'm manually checking. I think another example is the Southwest. They constantly have sales, so whenever
Yep.
they do, I'm telling my friends, "Oh, go check if your flight has dropped." But not everyone does that work. Plus, it's a lot of work for maybe like $10 savings could be a lot more, obviously, but you're playing that gamble and spending a lot of time. So this really changes that behavior to book just when you know you want to book.
Yeah, I think part of the ethos of Autopilot and why we built it and why I get up every day and work on Autopilot is because I just love getting our customers the most amount of savings that they can possibly get. And so even if that means we can't make any money on the transaction, like I want you to get the best deal. And so we have actually built some products at Autopilot where, for example, we've seen JetBlue and Southwest and Alaska kind of offer these flash sales. And
Mm,
typically those are only for new bookings, right? And so, you can only get it if you make a new booking. We have the data from our customers. Hey, this is actually a qualifying booking. We can't reprice this. You essentially need to cancel, use that trip credit, apply it to a new booking, but we send out courtesy notifications all the time when we,
mm,
essentially know that there is an opportunity for our customers to get a savings that we can't do for them, that they
yeah,
kind of have to do on their own. And we don't charge anything for that. That is just part of kind of our lowest fare guarantee and our promise to our customers, which is, hey, we want you to get the best deal on the plane. In this case, the terms and conditions kind of say that you need a new booking. So, you cancel it, you'll get a travel credit instantly in your account. Just go make a new booking, apply that travel credit, and you net the difference. And so, again, we are really in it to save our customers money, and we do that no matter if we can make money on that or not.
yeah. No, that's awesome to hear. Like I actually didn't know about those terms and conditions for new bookings on these sales. So even more so, it's great that you guys are even alerting and participating in that. And you mentioned JetBlue. Which airlines do you, and you can include in hotels in this too, like which airlines do you support for people to look at?
Yeah, so Autopilot supports reservations that are booked directly through Alaska, American, Delta, JetBlue, and United. We also have hotel support. So on the hotel side, if you book a flexible rate reservation, the price drops on that reservation. Autopilot will rebook you to get you the savings, and that's pretty much a dollar for dollar reduction on the amount that you owe when you check in. On the hotel side, we support Marriott, Hyatt, and IHG. Hilton is on the way. And yeah, again, as long as it's a direct booking through any of those supported travel providers, we can support it. Now, back to the flight side on points. So long as you book using any of our supported airlines currencies, we are able to track it. So, for example, if you use a American Airlines American Airlines miles to purchase a flight that is operated by British Airways, we are able to support that. However, on the inverse, this goes for cash fares as well. If you book a American Airlines operated flight through their partner British Airways, we aren't able to support it. So it really depends on who essentially the issuing carrier is, the one that has provided you the ticket and the reservation. If it is through our supported airline, we or supported airlines, we are able to kind of support that reservation for tracking.
Yeah. I'm curious, and if you're able to answer, like, got most of the domestic ones. Why is it harder to do international, or there's like a big barrier to, or is that a future plan maybe?
Yeah, great question. It's actually a structural barrier, right? When we think about the elimination of change fees and what that did, is that allowed essentially customers to claim lower fares without first paying a change fee. A lot of the international carriers, unfortunately, still do have change fees. Now, there is possibly a market where we can say, all right, well, on a flexible reservation booked through an international carrier, we can track that and support, price drop savings.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we've kind of taken a business decision approach to that, which is that we don't think the market there is big enough. But at some point in the future, if that changes, we're all ears.
Yeah, no, thanks for answering that at least. And then for hotels, like what if I make a prepaid stay? So I already paid. Is that kind of like there's no flexibility there because it's a prepaid stay?
Yeah, unfortunately, with prepaid stays, exactly, there's no flexibility. So if the price goes down on that prepaid rate, I mean, theoretically, we could cancel it, but you'd be out the money that you've already paid for the prepay, which just kind of nets you in the negative. It wouldn't make sense to support. But if you book a flexible rate reservation, and kind of what we've seen in some of our early data is that booking the flexible rate will essentially, if you're doing it, more than a few months out, will make up the difference between just prepaying. And so it's always better to just do a flexible rate reservation so that not only do you have the downside price drop protection, but you also, generally speaking, will make back that money, again, assuming you're not booking call it week of.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that's the same theory for basic economy. I keep telling my parents, don't book basic economy. You're not a broke college student anymore. Is that kind of
Yep.
the same philosophy too?
Yeah, exactly, right. And so like if you are booking basic economy, for example, day of, like maybe that makes sense. Maybe you don't need the flexibility. You are just trying to get from point A to point B as efficiently and as cheaply as possible. Sure, that might make sense. Now, if you're booking 6 weeks, 6 months, a year out, there is almost no circumstance I can imagine where buying a basic economy ticket makes sense. We've seen that in almost every case, again, under the assumption you are buying more than a week out, that we will more or less make back the difference for you between the price you pay in premium economy, or sorry, in regular economy versus basic. And so, it almost never makes sense. But, again, everybody has to make their own decision. And, just know that if you're buying a basic economy ticket, you know, there is almost zero flexibility with that reservation. So, again, unless you know for certain that you are going to take that, we generally recommend buying just kind of that main cabin fare.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of like purchasing, flying behaviors. Who's kind of your ideal customer? Who should be signing up for Autopilot right after like seeing this video?
Yeah, I think there are two or three different types of customers that would really value autopilot, right? The person who is flying on a weekly basis from point A to point B, whether you are running your own small business or you are, for example, a consultant and you are, flying around all the time to work with various clients. Those are great customers for us. At the same time, if you are a family of four and you travel once or twice a year, maybe you travel with your spouse, some kids, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you're traveling with some extended family, that doesn't mean that we can't save you money. And actually, a lot of those people are some of our best customers because they continue to come back time after time when they have these trips that come up for their family. And so all that to say that there are multiple different groups of people who autopilot can help save money on their travel.
Yeah.
The one group that I will say you probably shouldn't sign up are people who predominantly book through OTAs, online travel agencies, or through a travel agent. Just structurally, we aren't able to support those tickets. All that to say, my advice, kind of just in this, in the spirit of trying to get customers the best deal, some travel agents, not really OTAs, but personal travel agents, if you have them, some of them do actually offer price monitoring services. So it is worth asking. Oftentimes, you'll pay kind of either a monitoring fee or a transaction fee to claim lower fares when they come. But it is worth asking if you do use a mom and pop travel agent shop, where you're actually interacting with a human. They might provide that, so it is worth asking.
Yeah, but you and I both in the points and miles space know third-party providers, even the credit card portals themselves are not the way to go. So anyone in this audience, you shouldn't be going down that path anyway. So then it's a moot point. Sounds like you should sign up for Autopilot.
I don't know if any of you have been stuck with irregular operations when you have booked through a third party, a credit card portal, online travel agency. It is just such a headache, especially compared to booking direct. I highly recommend everybody just book direct. It is the way the industry is going. As I'm sure some of you may have seen a few years ago, American Airlines, did away with offering rewards, loyalty points, and American Airlines Advantage miles to those that book through a travel agent, unless it was issued through this thing called NDC, which is pretty much a direct booking. And so they did have to backtrack that. They, kind of ripped the band-aid off a little bit too early. All that to say, that was a big signal for where the industry is heading, which is incentivizing direct bookings. And so this is kind of the wave of the future. If you are not already booking your flights and hotels direct, I highly recommend you get on that bandwagon sooner rather than later because, in due time, there will be, less that you get from booking through an online travel agency.
Yeah, and then like the Sapphire Reserve, Platinum, you only earn the 4 or 5x back respectively when booking direct. So, and then you got Autopilot. So all these things are all these pieces are coming together. So we talked about like the basics of Autopilot, but you did preview kind of another experience, that book post booking experience, like the upgrade watch. You know, anything you're able to share. What are some cool things people can look forward to the future? What are some of maybe your goals to kind of again heighten that post booking experience?
Sure. We started with lowest fare guarantee because that was essentially the product that we found that gave customers legitimate, tangible value in many cases on day one. And so we heard a lot of positive feedback from our customers. Hey, I signed up today and you already saved me a few $100. I want more of this. We looked at that and said, okay, this is really, a unique thing that we can bring to customers that, is not really in market. And so how do we expand this? And so that is when we expanded into hotels. We saw a ton of opportunity to save customers money. Again, with the flexible rates on hotels when they book, prices drop, same thing. We can get customers money back. Again, tangible value on day one. As we started talking to a lot of customers and figuring out some of their pain points kind of in this post-booking experience, we heard that a lot of people, myself included, I love flying in premium cabins, but unfortunately, maybe one day Autopilot will be successful enough where I can just buy them outright. But unfortunately, I am kind of strapped to a little bit of a budget right now, right? Which is, I can only really fly economy. Sometimes it's a long flight. I'll splurge for, that comfort plus. I'm
Yeah.
a little tall, so having the extra leg room is definitely, nice for me. But all that to say that we heard from some of our most frequent customers that, hey, I really love to upgrade. And, in many cases, hey, my employer will pay for premium economy, but, if Delta One or, United Polaris is $400 or $500 more, I'll just pay it out of my own pocket. So we said, hey, this is really interesting. The airlines now are dynamically pricing these upgrade offers. Those that you see in app, those are dynamically priced. And in many cases, they are actually using AI to price that offer. So somebody who has top tier status is generally going to have a higher offer than somebody who is a non-status member.
Hmm.
And we've looked at a lot of this data and said, okay, how do we bring technology and a solution to this where people can track the price of upgrades and either get alerted or essentially have that upgrade just build through to them when the price drops below their threshold. And so we launched a product that we've seen a ton of positive receptivity to called Upgrade Offer Alerts. And that is now expanded into Bid for an Upgrade, which is that same concept, which is I buy into economy. I want to go up to premium economy or business. Let me know when the price to do so drops below X threshold. Uh, you would be surprised at how cheap the airlines are offering these upgrades for, especially now, any of you who are kind of top tier elites at any of the airlines. I'm sure you have realized over the past few years that the complimentary upgrade has by and large gone away, which is very frustrating for people who have spent a lot of time, effort, and money with, one airline being loyal to them. And now they're selling a first class seat for $50 instead of giving it to a loyal elite status member. Now, on the other hand, that means that you can upgrade to business or first for in many cases as low as $50. We've seen the lowest first class upgrade offer price. I think it was $18, which,
I would
it
pay
was
for
a
that.
short haul domestic, but again, you would be so all that to say you would be surprised at how cheap some of these offers are being sold for. And so my 2 cents to anybody listening is sign up for Autopilot and just throw in a lowball offer and we'll track that price. And if the lowball offer converts, which in many cases it does, great. You'll pay us a small transaction fee on that, which is again a percentage of the upgrade cost, capped at a specific amount. But if it never fires, no harm, no foul. If the airline doesn't sell it for a price you're willing to pay, no harm, no foul. We tried. We tracked the upgrade price, and again, uh, you can fly in that premium cabin without paying the rack rate of what the airline wants to sell it for you at booking.
Yeah, no, that's another also awesome perk and another reason why you want a flex fare versus basic economy so we can make those moves. I guess one question that popped up in my head too is, you know, I know you mentioned family, so is there a difference you see or strategy you would suggest if it's a family, group of friends versus a single solo traveler, or maybe even a business that has, 20 people going to a conference?
Yeah, I think the business with 20 people going to a conference is maybe its own case in that, generally speaking, they probably either have a travel agent or somebody is, creating a group booking, which unfortunately we don't support generally. Those are pre-negotiated rates.
Mhm.
But for the family and the, kind of the solo traveler, anywhere in between, I think what we have seen is flexibility is, the name of the game here, right? Which is the more flexible you can be, the better price you can find. If you are on a 6 a.m. flight and the 8 a.m. is more expensive, where we're going is we will be able to track that and say, hey, originally when you booked the 8 a.m. was more expensive, but now the price is $20 more. Do you want to make that change? Great, yes or no. And that is essentially giving people kind of that customization we were talking about. That is where this is heading. As we think about that flexibility too, the airlines have done a lot on the dynamic pricing side where, we've just been looking at a lot of this data for the last 2.5 years, trying to figure out how we get customers the best possible price for their flights. And a lot of what we've seen is smaller bookings, meaning less people on a booking has a higher chance of dropping.
Makes
Now,
sense.
why is that? And this might be a little intuitive, but if you are one person on a reservation, an airline has one seat left at the lower price, we can essentially bump that one person down to the lower fare. Everybody else stays at the originally booked fare. Now, if you're four people, four seats in that lower fare class have to essentially open up in order for us to be able to do that all or nothing transaction. And so
You
all
don't
that to
break it
say,
up.
yeah, at the same time, there are some benefits to booking, all together. If you're a family with some young kids, the airlines generally will do their best to seat you together if you're all on one reservation. It,
Yeah.
might be a little tough if you have a 2-year-old, a lap infant on kind of their own reservation or whatnot. Like, I might not recommend that. But yeah, if you are looking for maximum, efficiency here, it is to have a small booking and to book as far out as possible.
Yeah. No, and going back to what you said, I also remember like trying to book flights a year out because a lot of times they have schedule changes, so then I can, use the free change to get a better
Yep.
time. But at least, again, I have to monitor that, or maybe I'll get an email sometimes that it's been changed, so I can choose another one. So the tools you're creating are kind of these key issues as travelers we face. So it's very
Yep.
helpful.
Yeah, 100%. I know that there's a lot of pain in kind of this post-booking process in areas that we haven't yet talked about. I, could go down this rabbit hole for hours talking about them and what we're looking at internally. But all that to say that the market is huge to help travelers optimize kind of that post-booking experience, and that's really what we're focused on. So,
Yeah.
a ton of opportunity, whether it's schedule changes, delayed, canceled flights, seat assignments, various things. And so, at the end of the day, that's really what we're passionate about and what we're building for customers. So, yeah,
No, that's awesome. And then the market's huge. One day maybe it'll be rental cars or even scheduled Ubers or whatever it is. There's probably like things I'm not even thinking about that the same mindset can be applied to. So it's exciting. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share? I'll definitely have your socials and the website here, but anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, anything, anybody who's listening, go sign up for Autopilot today with autopilot.com. There is literally no downside to doing so. If we don't save you any money, we will not charge you anything. If we save you money, we will only charge you a percentage of the amount that we save you. So it is, in our words, it is win-win or it's free. We want to make sure that we're providing value to you, and if we're not, we don't think we should be compensated, right? If we're not taking any value, if we're not providing any value, there's no point for us to make any money because we haven't added any value to you. Yeah, with autopilot.com. If you are on the iOS App Store, we have a mobile app. It is Autopilot Travel. If you search Autopilot Travel, it should come up. And if you like just little tidbits about airlines prices, we have a lot of the pricing data that I just love looking at every morning when I wake up to see like, oh, how have prices trended over the last, 6 weeks? If you want to read into any of that, I generally tweet some of those out on X at Sam Hollander _. So give me a follow if you're interested in looking at some of that data and hearing about airline and hotel pricing trends.
Yeah, no, I'm already interested, so I need to give that a follow.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew.
But Sam, again, thank you for the time. This has been an awesome conversation.
Thank you. Really appreciate it and looking forward to saving everybody some money.